We all know the story, right? The different variations of it, getting enchanted about it. See, people love Cinderella for the cruelty that it is in the beginning and the beautiful story that it is in the end. Because in most variations, we know that the prince is going to take her away from this wicked, evil stepmother and these two stepsisters. We know the cruelty that is that story. And there are different variations on whether one or both stepsisters really had nothing against Cinderella, but the commonality is always that evil stepmother. When this story was being passed throughout Europe before it became a Disney classic and all of this stuff, what were the original writers trying to tell you? You must understand that part of Europe at the time was still filled with disease and war and famine. So it was not uncommon for someone to lose their spouse and to remarry. But what this story is trying to tell you, regardless of who's actually the original author, is the cruelty of the real world and the cruelty of remarriage. And we must remember in that time frame, remarriage was beneficial because you needed stable homes, because what we today know as wages wasn't guaranteed to people. Europe in particularly lived on a life of serfdom for most people. There were nobles, clergy, and peasants. And most people, of course, were peasants. There was living off the land and eating of the land after the landed gentry or the nobles got what they got out of it, and after you gave to the church, which was the clergy. Okay. So that left the peasants or the lower classes, the proletariat, to struggle while the bourgeoisie lived. That's what made this story so remarkable, okay, is the fact that Cinderella came from the proletariat. Herself, not her stepmother, but herself, and rose to the highest bourgeoisie. So in the end, after being traumatized, still fairly in her youth, having lost her mother and her father, she got to move in a castle and live happily ever after. See, the reason I bring this up is because this is the fairy tale ending. Without a doubt, some people make excellent step parents, come in and take care of kids of their own. I've met adults who have better relationship with either their stepmother or stepfather than they did their biological parent. There are very few that I know that the biological parent actually died. They just never really had a relationship with that person. So if you know you are that, then this shouldn't offend you. It's been increasing on the news of kids being killed by their significant their parent's significant other or step parent. So I'm going to tell you a story but not give details, because it was a painful story from my childhood, which explains why I personally am cautious about the ideal of step parenting. As a kid who grew up with step parents. Years ago, a little girl, it was the late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember the exact same time frame. Had a Hispanic mother. I was growing up, Hispanic parents growing up in Alabama, and they split up some type of way. Well, the Hispanic father married a Caucasian woman. Look, race doesn't matter here. I'm just giving you some details because you'll sooner or later figure it out. I just won't say names. The stepmother never really cared for this stepdaughter. This little girl comes up missing. She's between 6 to 8 years old, and they find her body covered in burns based on a hot scalding bath. And the black bag that was used to cover her body so bad was that it stuck to her body, and because of the burn, she was burned bad and killed and put in that bag. The stepmother just kept the "I didn't do it" face. Her biological mother is devastated. And then the biological father's behavior is what bothered me. It's like it gave off I stick by my wife, but I knew her and my daughter were having problems. But when you got deep into the story, right? Because I don't remember the outcome. I'll have to look the little girl up later. When you look at it, you see that he keeps a very evil looking face. See, Cinderella got her happy ending, but a lot of children don't. I'm not sitting here telling you that once your spouse dies and some things happen that you shouldn't remarry, or that if you never married the parent to not get married. I'm telling you that although this story had a beautiful and happy ending, Cinderella, for a lot of young children, step parenting is not an option. And when you enter these unions and when you decide to step up into that role, understand that the glass slipper is fragile.